Well, look, I can't say hello to everybody because there's 50 people or so and the numbers are clicking up. We've got plenty of participants today. I'm going to start the show because I make it 4 p.m. And so here we are. Welcome back to Normandy with me, Patrick Hillier of welovenormandy.com. Let me just change the camera angle here. Adjust my mask. As you can see, I'm wearing the gloves. Now what I want to do is just get a picture of the sea in the distance there. There we go. And me on the frame as well. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, welcome to Normandy. My company, I think as many of you know, provides transport, accommodation, private guided tours, and of course virtual tours of the Normandy area. And I've lived in this beautiful region for nearly 20 years. I'm a D-Day guide and a member of the Normandy Battlefield Tour Guides Association, and I've been giving these virtual tours since June of last year. Now today I'm here at Longues-sur-Mer, near the town of Bayeux, on top of the 200-foot cliffs. In the distance behind me, and I'll change the, I'll go to the front camera with a better lens so you can see the Mulberry Harbour a bit better. You might be able to make out the remains of the Mulberry Harbour at Arromanches in the British Gold Beach sector. And to the west, let me flick through to the camera so you can see that. There you have it. There's Mulberry Bee in Arromanches, those small dark shapes on the horizon on the English Channel there, the remains of the artificial harbour. That's to our east at the British Gold Beach sector, and as I pan around to the west, we'll get a better view of it actually when we get down to the bunker. But to the west there, where the sun is shining, is OMAHA Beach in the American sector. North of here, about 100 miles across the channel, the English Channel, is the south coast of England, not of course visible from here, and that's where the largest invasion fleet in history set sail to deliver the Allied invasion forces here to Normandy on June the 6th, 1944 D-Day. Now before we begin the tour, I'd just like to say thanks to everyone who's tuned in today, and to give a very special shout out to my VIPs. That's very important patrons. Sue, Anne-Marie, Barb and Peter, thank you very, very much for your support. And thanks to all my fan subscribers as well. Of course, I couldn't do these tours without your subscriptions, so thank you very much indeed. After the tour, we'll be doing the usual Zoom platoon, a debrief open to all paid subscribers. Just click on the members area and the subscribers page to get the details of the Zoom platoon. Now, let me give you a few boring instructions and then we'll be good to begin. You can view the video in full screen, of course. You can pause the live video stream and even rewind by using the slider at the bottom of the screen. If you've registered as a member, then you can use the chat facility by clicking on the chat button at the bottom right hand side of the screen. Make sure you select my name, Patrick Hillier, from the top of the list, and I'll get your message. Nobody else will see it. It's a one-to-one communication. I'll see it, and also my faithful assistant today, Nikki, back at We Love Normandy HQ, who's handling the messages and questions. So, some of you already done so, but click on the members chat button and let me know where you're viewing from. If you don't see the chat button, that's probably because you did not register as a public member. When you register, you have the option to not to be private, effectively. But if you want to chat to me or the other participants, you need to make your profile public. Click on it's easy. Click on your profile and say make profile public. Okay, then you might need to refresh your browser. Have a look at the archive photographs. There's lots of great archive footage today, including video below the video panel. And I'm going to be referring to those pictures and videos as we go through the tour. And if you're in full screen mode, you won't be able to use the chat button or see the gallery. So you have to go back to medium screen mode to see the gallery and the chat. Now, a virtual tour is no substitute for the real thing, but there are one or two advantages. Today you get the chance to see Strongpoint 48, the Longues-sur-Mer battery, in the best possible conditions. Fine weather, as you can see so far, fingers crossed, and certainly no crowds. Today we are at Strongpoint 48. I'll put the camera on the... I'll go to front camera so you can see the guns in the distance there on the horizon. Strongpoint 48, the Longues-sur-Mer battery. We will walk from here to the fire control observation bunker, 200 feet above the cliffs. We'll take a look at that, and then we'll go across these fields to the 4 big guns that you might just be able to see on the horizon there. They're about 400 yards. They're about 400 yards behind the cliffs. They are, for the region, pretty unique in that they are mostly intact, still in their firing positions, certainly 3 of them, inside their Regal bow standard design casemate bunkers. And along the way we'll chat about some of the background to the D-Day landings and the history of the battery. We're going to find out how, with support from the Allied navies and intelligence from the French resistance, the Devonshire regiment, part of the British 50th Infantry Division, secured this position on the day after D-Day, D+1, the 7th of June. We're also going to discover why the battery was located here, where it is, and we'll learn about the exchange of fire between the German gunners in those bunkers over there and the Allied warships. We'll learn how a lucky shot destroyed gun number 4, or indeed did it, and I'll try to give you a sense of just how unique this place is. And we stand next to that military hardware over there that was last fired 77 years ago on what was one of the most historic days of World War II. I also hope to convince you that this place, the Longues-sur-Mer battery, is one of the most fascinating and certainly evocative locations along the 50 miles of the D-Day beachhead. Okay, let's go, and we are here at the first of the bunkers that we'll see today, the fire control bunker. Now, the battery itself is strategically located between the coastal towns of Port-en-Bessin to the west in the American sector and Arromanches to the east in the British sector. And with a firing range of 12 miles, the guns here could cover both of these locations, as well as... Welcome, Barry from Somerset. Apparently your grandfather was in the Devonshires. I'm delighted that you joined us today. I hope I'll be able to give you some new information about your grandfather's regiment and its participation here on the 7th of June. So as I was saying, the guns could cover Omaha Beach, Gold Beach and Juno Beach. We might lose a little bit of the signal here because by these concrete bunkers, sometimes the 4G telephone cell phone signal is not great. I hope these images are coming through clear to you now. Okay, well, we're going to go down and round behind the bunker and then we'll go at the front. Pardon. Excusez-moi. Bear with me a second while we get in front of the bunker and I'm sure the signal will be restored to us. Okay, well, we're out of the radio shadow of the bunker, and I'm hoping you're getting these images and the sound in good order. Okay. Let's swing around to selfie mode. Sorry about that if we lost the picture quality was a bit fuzzy. It happens here. Unfortunately, you know, these bunkers are made of hundreds of tons of solid concrete and steel, and so we do get some grey spots or black spots in the 4G signal, but I'm hoping that you're getting this picture and sound loud and clear. Now the guns themselves, we're here at the fire control point. This is not a gun bunker, this is an observation position right on the edge of the cliff. The guns themselves, and we'll get a much closer look at them shortly, were German Navy guns manufactured by the Skoda company in Czechoslovakia. If you drive a Skoda car, and you may well do if you live in Europe, it was basically, your car was made by the same organisation as the guns here at Longues-sur-Mer. Now, because they were Navy guns, this position was, there's a few people joining us, so I'm going to put my mask back on. The Navy ran the battery here, the German Kriegsmarine Navy troops, but by the time of the invasion, the battery had been handed over to around 180 artillery troops from the 352nd Artillery Regiment, part of the 352nd Infantry Division, under the command of Major Werner Pluskat. The troops were responsible for the 4 big guns and 2 mortar positions, several machine gun Tobruks. That's okay, I'm now on my own again, so I can take the mask off. And the whole complex was protected by landmines and barbed wire. Now, the gunners did not normally have direct visual contact with targets on the English Channel ahead of me here, and so the fire control bunker was used and needed to send the coordinates of targets back to the big guns via an armoured telephone cable. The guns themselves are about 400 yards behind us. So I'll flick back onto the main camera and we'll take a look at the observation bunker. This is what we call the fire control bunker. Quite impressive it is too. It's almost completely intact. If you're wondering what these little chips are that are out of the superstructure of the bunker there, they were deliberately put there by the builders or the people who constructed the bunker to assist with camouflage. This unit, as with all of the bunkers here, would have been very well camouflaged on the lead up to the Allied invasion. I've uploaded some video footage I made last year of the lower observation level, but unfortunately the 2-metre thick walls and ceilings don't allow us to broadcast over 4G from inside. But the upper or rangefinder level, where you can see those people standing, may just be accessible. When we go back up, I'll walk onto the upper level, the rangefinder level, and we'll see if the video signal allows us to film from there. Don't worry if it gets a bit fuzzy, it'll be restored in a couple of seconds. Okay, so the rangefinder level gives a clear view of the channel ahead of us. So if you can imagine up there on the first level of the bunker, you have this view of the English Channel. And underneath the rangefinder, you have a room with the sophisticated electrical signalling and communications equipment, all protected by that mass of steel reinforced concrete. Now from here you get a good view of the British and American sectors, and this formidable view of the bunker itself. may be familiar to some of you if you've watched the movie The Longest Day. Because the crucial moment in the film when Major Werner Pluskat first sees the Allied invasion fleet appearing out of the mist was filmed from that top deck there. Pluskat, if you've seen the film, turns round and says, "Mein Gott, sie kommen!" My God, they're coming! Making him the first German officer to spy the Allied fleet. However, if you've joined my OMAHA beach tour, the last one we did was a couple of weeks ago, down at Strongpoint 62, we talked about Heinz Cervelo, the so-called Beast of Omaha. Well, our old friend Heinz Cervelo refutes this story that Pluskat was here and was the first person to spot the fleet. In fact, in his autobiography, he says that Pluskat was absent altogether on D-Day. Anyway, like so many of the stories connected to D-Day, we may never know the truth, but at least it's good to know the stories. Now, what I'll do is I'll try to get back up to the upper level of the bunker, and we'll attempt to continue to broadcast. If we get a bit of a fuzzy signal, bear with me for a couple of seconds or 30 seconds and it'll be restored, and we'll go and have a look at the mortar ring stand. Okay. Sorry. No, désolé. if you're inside the bunker there. But as I say, there's a video in the gallery with a walkthrough of the bunker itself. Pardon. Okay, we might just have lost the signal there a little bit. Are we back online yet? Okay, hopefully we are back online. Well, let me spin around to the selfie camera. Well, I tried, and I'm sorry, I think I may have failed to give you a view of the bunker from inside the observation, sorry, the rangefinder deck. But I think we're going to need to move on. So we'll stay away from the observation bunker, the fire control bunker. Hopefully these images now are coming through perfectly. But the wind is blowing a gale, so I hope you can hear me. Is that okay? Can you still hear me? The microphone is a good microphone, and you may not be able to hear the wind, but believe it or not, this is blowing a gale here. So this brings us to the second of the bunkers, of the many bunkers that we'll see today. This one is one of two mortar bunkers, mortar positions or ring stands. One here overlooking the coast. You may just be able to see the sea through the trees there. And there's one behind the guns themselves, about 400 yards south of here. Now this housed an 80mm French mortar, and the gun was capable of dropping mortar shells vertically down onto any invading troops that might have been at the foot of the cliffs on that shingle beach below us. It was never used because the infantry troops who secured the battery from the Devonshires on D+1 arrived overland from Gold Beach over in this direction here, so they never actually attacked the cliffs here as the 2nd Rangers did, for example, at Pointe du Hoc. Now here you can see, you might just be able to see the chambers inside the mortar position for the ammunition. Again, I'm not going to try and jump down inside because I think I'll lose the signal. But when we're going to repeat this this tour, but in webinar format in 2 weeks' time. And what I'll be able to do then is take you inside the bunkers as well. So that will be a week on Wednesday, I guess. One of the Wednesday webinars. Okay, so around here, so this is interesting. We have some inscriptions. Slightly mysterious. Here you can see a name. And with the sun in the position that it is at the moment, you might just be able to make that out. There's a name there. It looks like P. Mutz, perhaps, M-U-T-T-Z, and the date 1942, which is a bit of a mystery because the constructions here only began in 1943. So whether that's a genuine embellishment made by the person responsible for pouring this concrete or not is a mystery. You can see that. You can see the date here, 1942. And another very strange thing is this rather explicit depiction. I'm not sure you can be able to see it. I'll put a photograph on the Facebook page with this. There's a very sort of huge depiction of a horse or a stallion. Anyway, one of the many mysteries concerning the Longues-sur-Mer battery. We'll make our way now from the fire control position, which is where those people are walking to now, to the guns themselves, across this farmer's field. Now, on the night before D-Day, 1,500 tons of bombs were dropped onto the site, mostly or some of, and HMS Ajax brought their 6-inch guns into action, firing over 100 rounds at the battery. And within 20 minutes, the guns here were silenced. 2 of the guns were seriously damaged, with HMS Ajax claiming the hit. Now later in the afternoon, a third gun, the third gun that was operable, fired on the French cruiser the Georges Laigle and the cruiser Montcalm, and a duel followed involving the USS Arkansas, the US battleship Arkansas. The guns themselves were silenced when the battery was taken by the Hampshires on the next day, with over 180 prisoners from the garrison taken, many of whom were over the age of 40. Now here we reach one of the bunkers I was telling you about. This is an ammunition store. You can see why they put up this barrier here to stop people falling in by accident when it's dark. There's an ammunition store. There you can see the farmer's field, and in the distance over there towards the sea you can see another dark shape within the field itself. That is a machine gun to Brook, machine gun emplacement, and the poor old farmer has to plough this land by going around these objects because there's no way they can get rid of them. And when he harvests his crop as well, he has to be careful not to drive his harvester over the top of a 1940s German bunker. By the way, there in the very, very distance, you should be able to make out on the horizon the cliffs and bluffs of OMAHA Beach, and that very thin line of pale colour, which is the sand of the beach. And at the very tip of the peninsula is a Vierville, around the corner, Pointe de la Percée, and around the corner from that, La Pointe du Hoc, where the US Rangers scaled the cliff. So you can see that's about 10 miles distance from here. I'm not sure how that comes across on the on your screens, but it's just about visible here. Well, it was estimated that the battery fired well over 100 rounds at the fleet, but they did them no damage. Why was that? Well, the problem was, let me flick over. The problem for the gunners here was that the coordinates of the targets on the sea were sent to the guns via an armoured telephone cable. We mentioned it before when we were at the fire control point. And the bombing by the US Army Air Force prior to the D-Day landings had not destroyed the guns entirely, but had severed this vital communications link between the forward observation position and the guns. So the guns were firing blindly. Now, they did have a system of visual contact with the observation bunker using effectively semaphore, but that didn't work because of the amount of smoke that the guns produced. And the gunners could rely on telescopic sights mounted on the guns. These are naval guns, so they were designed to have visual telescopic sights. But as you can see, if you look over my shoulder there, the sea itself is a long, long way away from the guns, and it's very difficult to imagine that the gunners would have had any visual contact with targets on the sea. Anyway, we're not here to see my face, we're here to see some German artillery pieces, and we're just coming up to them now. So as a result, not one Allied ship was damaged by these guns. The crews themselves were inadequately trained, mostly because of lack of ammunition. They couldn't fire the guns for training purposes because they didn't have the ammo, and because of lack of time, because the gunners themselves, the members of this artillery regiment, were involved in the construction of the casemates themselves, the bunkers themselves. They were working for organisation TOT, the huge Nazi organisation that built the Atlantic Wall all the way from Norway down to the Bay of Biscay. So the gunners here were not that well trained. Now we're just coming up to this is gun number 2. The guns are numbered 1 to 4 from right to left as you look at them from this direction, left to right as you look at them on the map, I suppose. And again, if we lose the signal briefly, bear with me, it will be restored. So I promise you some big guns. And here you see the first one we will see today, gun number 2. By the way, there is some fabulous archive footage of the aftermath of the taking of the battery in the gallery. So these are 150mm Czech guns, 6 inches effectively, the 6 inch diameter shells, capable of firing 12 miles. They were previously Navy guns, and they are housed in these Regelbau standard design casemates. You may have seen these on our tour of Pointe du Hoc. The stepped, angled opening to the embrasure is designed to allow for the raising of the barrel, and the steps themselves There's an ingenious design to restrict shrapnel and small arms fire and even shells from funneling inside the casemate, which they otherwise would do. If you imagine it, it's a giant, looks like a giant funnel on its side. So we'll wait for these visitors to move on. Always attracts a good crowd here, but it's never too crowded. When I take hundreds of people to the beaches every year, and 95% of them say they want to go to Pointe du Hoc to see the bunkers there, and of course I always take them. But the bunkers and the guns here are way more impressive than at Pointe du Hoc, and you don't have to queue up behind hundreds and thousands of people. So it looks like the signal's working, so I'll try and get a bit closer to the gun. So far so good. Okay, so let's see if we can get a little bit closer. Yeah, you may be able to hear the voices of the other visitors here today. Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to go inside the bunker. As I say, we'll do that a week on Wednesday with some of the fabulous video footage that we've got of this site. But I will show you the outside of the guns. I was talking before about the telescopic sights for visual sighting of these guns. That's what this flap is for here on the right of the barrel. That's where the gunners would be able to look through their telescopic sights to get a visual on the target. The guns, as I mentioned, were previously installed on Navy ships, therefore they had to be modified to work in these fixed positions, and you can probably see how shiny the solder is, or the welding, on this section here of the canopy. And that solder looks brand new. You see how shiny that is? But actually, okay, we're losing the signal a wee bit. So that shiny solder, that shiny welding there, looks like it was done yesterday. That was done 77, 78 years ago. Some very special alloy. Now, we'll go over to gun number 1 because it doesn't look like there's any people over there. And then we'll have a look at the view from here. As I always say, Normandy, outside the months of late July and August, is always like this. There's a few people around, but basically no crowds. If you're planning a trip, come in the early parts of the season. May is great. June is good, but you might want to avoid June the 6th because of all of the commemorations going on. And late in the season, September, October is really nice here too. But even now here in March, it's a beautiful day. My fingers are not yet quite frozen. And here we are at gun number 1. And this one, we can actually get a look inside the barrel. There we go. I hope these are coming through okay. There you can see the 150mm barrel, and you should be able to see the rifling inside the barrel, rifling that turns the shell as it's projected and makes its trajectory, or gives its trajectory way more deadly accuracy. And there the stepped opening of the embrasure, and this bunker looks almost completely intact. Okay, so I hope you're not disappointed with. I'm just getting a message through from HQ. Bear with me 1 second. Sorry, mate. What was that? So Ben, always the voice of wisdom. Thank you for letting me know. The alloy is a nickel-based alloy, incredibly tough, a metal alloy which has survived all of these decades without rusting. Thank you very much, Ben. So you can see what a beautiful sky that is behind me. So let me go back onto the front camera. What we can do now, am I fit enough, able enough to climb up on top of the bunker? Let's see. If we can't go inside, we can go on top. I'm probably tempting fate here, but there we go. And if we're going to get a good signal, it'll be up here. So I'm right on top of casemate number 1, looking north now, as you can see, over the English Channel, which almost looks as blue as the Mediterranean today. And I'll pan round. By the way, you can see the steel clips here, the hooks for the camouflage nets. I was mentioning before, the camouflage of these structures was very important, and these hooks are there to maintain the camouflage nets in place. I'll swing around and we may just be able to make out the nearest town, the medieval city of Bayeux. Not so easy on this frame. I'm looking at the same picture you're looking at, but right in the center of the frame there's two towers sticking out. They almost look like treetops, I'm afraid. That is the fabulous medieval cathedral in Bayeux, liberated on the 7th of June. And the only way down from here is to jump, which we will do. And I'll tell you a little bit about the Hampshires and a little bit about the role of the resistance here at the battery. Okay. Let's just if you want to see me break my leg, this is the moment. There we go. Okay, and we're down. So we'll go and have a look at gun number 3 and 4. Number 4 is interesting in that it's been so badly damaged. Now, a question I'm often asked on these tours is what did the French resistance do on D-Day? Well, in general, the French resistance fighters were involved mainly in destroying German lines of communication and transport, especially the railway network as part of Plan Vert, or the Green Plan. But they also played a key role in supplying the Allies with intelligence. And here at Longues-sur-Mer, for example, the exact coordinates of these guns were known to the Allies prior to the invasion, thanks to the French resistance. And let me tell you my own personal version of the story. Back in 2002, my wife and I opened a little restaurant in the town of Gavray on the western side of the Cherbourg Peninsula. We were there for over 10 years and became very good friends with many of our clients. And we were especially fond of an elderly French couple called Monsieur and Madame Heinz, mainly because Monsieur Heinz spoke impeccable English, because he'd been to school in England and he'd followed an academic career in the universities of America, and he returned to France for his retirement. But he was also very fond of our fish and chips. Now, what has this got to do? Let me swing around here. What has this got to do with the Longues-sur-Mer battery? I hear you asking, quite rightly. Well, although we got to know Andre Heinz quite well, he never mentioned to me that he was a key member of the resistance, nor did he say anything about the role that he played in the events that took place here at Longues-sur-Mer. And he never told me about the medals that he received for his actions, including the French Légion d'honneur. He was such a humble, nice, quiet old gentleman. But a few years after we met, now I'm telling my story and I'm being told that the lip sync has gone out. Maybe that's not the case. If you refresh your browser, that might sort it out. Anyway, his son told me that as a member of the French resistance, his father had contributed in many ways during the war, from 1940 to 1944. And the French landowner, the farmer who owns all this land here that you see around the battery, he was authorised to visit this area to see to his animals and harvest his crops, etc., because the local population were not allowed anywhere near these guns. Now, the farmer himself had a son who was blind, and although the young boy couldn't see, he had a memory that was as sharp as a pin. And so the farmer paced out this area in order to record the exact position of the guns, and using landmarks like the road south of here, etc., and gave the information to his son, who memorized it. Now, the Germans were never going to stop and interrogate a young blind boy, and so the farmer's son was able to remember the positions of the guns here and go to the city of Caen, where he met with Andre Heinz, and Andre managed to radio that information using his secret little shortwave radio, managed to transfer that information, or transmit that information, to the British Special Operations Executive. And so when the Allies made their reconnaissance, and when the initial aerial bombardments of this place took place, and then when the Allied fleet arrived, we knew exactly where the guns were. And that was down to my old friend Andre Heinz, who he was born in 1920 and passed away after a very long, I'm sure, and accomplished life in his late 90s, or 3 or 4 years ago. Anyway, his radio, by the way, his little radio set, has a cabinet all to itself in the fabulous War Museum in Caen, the Caen Memorial Museum, and there's a big exhibition about Andre Heinz there. So that's the role of the resistance in knocking out these guns. So we're here now at gun number 3. This one, the canopy of this one, very badly damaged in the Navy shelling, and you should be able to see. Oh, it's almost completely rubbed off now. We need to do something about this, because you cannot actually see the plaque up there that commemorates the role of the Devonshire regiment in taking this position on June the 7th, 1944. So we shall have to write a letter to the local mayor and ask them if they can renew that notice up there. But this brings me to the Devonshires. They're part of the 50th Infantry Division. You can see the insignia of the Devonshire Regiment and that of the 50th Infantry Division, the Northumbrian Division. The Northumbrians is a double T, double capital T, and double capital T. And thank you. Mission Control is reminding me to put my mask on, because there are people here now. The double T of the Northumbrian Regiment represents the initial of the 2 major rivers in the ancient kingdom of Northumbria, the Tyne, T for the Tyne and T for the Tees. And what fewer people know, if you rotate the insignia through 90 degrees, you have the H of the Humber estuary. There we go. Anyway, the Devonshires, part of the 50th, commanded by General Cosmo Neville. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Neville, as he was back in 1944. I'll just flick to the front camera so you can get a picture of these lovely Normandy draft horses, giving people a nice ride around the battery. So Colonel Cosmo Neville was the commander of the 2nd Battalion of the Devonshires, and it was he who captured the battery here and accepted the surrender of the German garrison. And that earned him the DSO, the Distinguished Service Order. After the war, he became an accomplished and respected oil painter, and he lived out a long retirement, busy with his paints, in Suffolk in England. The Devonshires were obviously instrumental in taking this battery, although they did so with no resistance from the German troops who surrendered, 180 so troops who were in the garrison who surrendered on June the 7th. And you can possibly see why they surrendered when you can see here some of the damage that had been done to these fixed positions. This is gun number 4. Very badly damaged, as you can see. Now, the American author Stephen Ambrose, in his book D-Day, says that the gun was destroyed following a direct hit from HMS Ajax, the ship we mentioned earlier, firing into the casemate at the same time that the gunners were loading up a shell into the gun, and thus exploding the naval shell and the shell that was in the breech of the gun and the ammunition bunkers behind the gun, which accounts for the damage that you see today. Before we go and say another explanation, let me just show you some of that debris that's still here. This is also the nice thing, well, what is a fascinating thing about the Normandy battlefield. So much of the material is still in the public domain. Here we have a section of the barrel of the gun just lying in the grass there in front of the bunker. And if I go back 30-40 feet in front of the bunker, here we have the tip of the barrel just lying there in the ground. Quite a lot of it is, of course, under the ground, otherwise I'm sure somebody would have taken it. So now let's have a look at the gun itself. You can see this one is protected with this barbed wire to stop people touching the remains of the gun, but it's still very much open access. And look at the damage that was done to this 150mm artillery piece. Completely exploded. And the bunker itself, as you can see, 2 enormous fissures either side of the embrasure, one to the right there and one to the left here. Looks almost as though the ceiling of the bunker, which is 2 meters thick, it's steel reinforced solid concrete, looks like the whole ceiling or the whole roof of the bunker must have perhaps blown up several feet into the air and then come back down. The damage is so great. Now, Stephen Ambrose has it that was the result of a direct hit from HMS Ajax, which is a great story, and I'm sure the captain of HMS Ajax, if he'd managed to achieve that, was an incredibly skillful commander. And it's when you see the distance between here and the sea, you can imagine the battleship, the gunships, the warships out there on the English Channel, several miles away, to be able to fire its 6-inch guns, Ajax that is, and to get one of those shells right into this opening is quite a feat. And I'm sure that they did make their mark. However, whether it was a Navy shell that did this huge damage, we don't know, because there is another version Another source says that the damage was due not to action on D-Day, but later on when the site was used as a storage facility, a munitions storage facility for a Royal Air Force flak gun position that was fixed on the roof of the bunker up there. The ammunition exploded, killing 4 servicemen, and that's what caused all of that damage. We may never know. Okay, well, this is bringing us towards the end of the tour. Let me flick over to the front camera. So, apologies for the few minor glitches with the signal, but that's what these concrete bunkers are like. They make it difficult for this 21st century technology. Well, I hope you enjoyed the tour and hopefully learned something new. The Longues-sur-Mer battery was a formidable threat to the Allied armies. Let me just get this where you're not staring into the sun. Where are we? There we go. How about that? It was recently commissioned and equipped with artillery that could fire 6-inch shells onto the American, British and Canadian beaches, as we mentioned before, the assault forces at sea and the troops on the beach. Now, undoubtedly the British, French and American navies were responsible for the destruction of the gun battery here, but that followed a thorough softening up of the defences here by the American Army Air Force. In fact, the reason for the German guns' ineffectiveness on D-Day was precisely because the American B-26 Marauder bombers had been successful in severing that vital communications link between the fire control bunker and the guns themselves. We talked about the actions of the resistance in getting the exact coordinates of these guns to the Allies, and so my old friend Andre Heinz, may he rest in peace, played an important role in the mission's success. Was Major Pluscat, Major Werner Pluscat, was he here on the misty morning of D-Day watching in horror as the Allied fleet hove into view on the horizon? Well, no, he probably wasn't here. In fact, he may not even have been on the Normandy beaches on the morning of June the 6th. But that's Hollywood for you. And did the captain of HMS Ajax score that lucky hit on gun number 4, causing all that damage that we just... There was another explanation, as I said. But in any case, in spite of the inevitable uncertainties that you get in any historical context, one truth is literally rock solid. The bunker there over my shoulder and the gun within it, still in place, bear witness to the battle that was fought here nearly 77 years ago. Now, on Wednesday, the 7th of April, I'll be hosting a live webinar where we'll revisit the battery, but this time we'll go inside the bunkers and there'll be a lot more supporting information. We'll maybe cover a bit more detail. So I hope you can join me for that. That's Wednesday, the 7th of April at 8 p.m. Paris time. We have next Wednesday a webinar entitled The US Forces on D-Day, which is a great background webinar about the American involvement, the American involvement and the events of the American sector on D-Day, and that's both of those ones are at 8 p.m. And next weekend I won't be bothering you, but on Saturday the 10th of April I'm planning to do a broadcast from the town of Bayeux, which is just over there behind the guns, about 3 or 4 miles away. And we'll walk through the streets of that fascinating medieval city, discover some of the echoes of the past that I like to show you. We'll go and see the Bayeux Tapestry Museum, where they hold the 1,000-year-old embroidery known as the Bayeux Tapestry. We'll see the Battle of Normandy Museum, certainly from the outside with some of the hardware there. And we'll end the tour in the British and Commonwealth Cemetery at Bayeux. So you can see the details. I can't see any people around me at the moment. You can see the details of all the forthcoming tours on the Eventbrite website and on welovenormandy.com. Better still, if you click on subscribe, we can keep you updated and you can get the benefit of lots of membership advantages. And thank you all very much for taking part. If you've enjoyed the show, please tell all of your friends and family and pets about it, and do mention it on social media. You could put a review on TripAdvisor, that would be great. If you'd like to make a contribution for today's free tour, then you can click on the Support Us tab in the members area menu at the top of this page. You can follow We Love Normandy on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're a subscriber, you can watch and download today's footage, and indeed footage of all my on-location tours and webinars, in the video archive page. If, as I sincerely hope, you'll visit Normandy soon, have a look at the website at some of the fabulous properties that we work with. And if you're coming over, do let me know when, and I'll be able to put you in touch with a good guide, or indeed, if you'll excuse me for a second, or indeed tour with you myself. So the email is patrick@welovenormandy.com. Remember, don't forget to subscribe. You can register for free, and it's only €3 to subscribe as a paying member, but you get a 30-day free trial, so give it a try, and you can cancel your membership at any time. So the Zoom platoon, the Zoom debriefing is due to start in 5 minutes or so, 5 or 10 minutes. The details are on the subscriber page, so I'll see you there shortly. Otherwise, it's au revoir from me. Thank you very much for participating, and I hope to see you soon in beautiful Normandy. Thank you very much. A bientôt. We'll see you next time.